Good morning, thanks all for coming. You all caffeined up? Sorry for the early start, it's their fault, it's not mine. Okay, so we're going to be talking about light and colour, without which photographs would be pretty dark and dull really, wouldn't they? We need to talk about controlling colour today, and we're going to be talking about shaping and controlling light today. So we will be using speed lights today, so rather than using sort of big pro photos and that sort of thing, which is what I would use for half my weddings. I'm a wedding photographer, but in sort of other conditions where pro photos and some of the big strobes, it's just too much juice, we use speed lights, and we need to shape the light, otherwise we just end up with light everywhere. So we've got these very cool things called flash benders by Rogue. I've actually nicked all the stuff that was on the display stand, but I'll go back there later on. And we're going to use different things. If you've not seen them, they're actually quite cool. They collapse and fold away, so they're easy to carry if you're wedding photographers. Who am I speaking to? How many wedding photographers here? Portrait? Other stuff? What's other stuff? Quite a lot of other stuff. What do we have? Just give me a shout.
Landscape.
What was that?
Landscape.
Landscape. Commercial. Motorsport. Good man. Interior. Okay, good stuff. So, for motorsport, do you use artificial light? No? Very rarely. Yeah. Can you get away with using artificial light in motorsports? Every now and then. Okay. So for everyone else, I think this is going to be quite powerful because it's so flexible. And we're going to look at a few different setups with our model Jane a bit later on. But in the meantime, let's just look at a few bits and pieces that I've done. Just skip forward from there. So your style of lighting can be a huge part of your visual signature, basically. And it's what I use to try and separate my work from everyone else out there. So if you go onto Google, you type in wedding photographer, you're going to get something like 40 million results or something daft like that. So you have to separate yourself. And there's various ways of doing that. So for me, my lighting style is a big part of my signature, basically. So let's just look at a few images so you can see where I'm at. So, images like these are going to be a mixture of bigger strobes, speed lights, and in some conditions, bigger strobes with speed lights as well. So I like mixing lights up when I can. But here, when we have this huge venue over here, and it's quite a big gallery. That span is bigger than this basically. So I've got a huge strobe on camera right, all the way up to the ceiling. Thank you for that. And it's a snooted light. So if any of you use snoots, big cone, funnels light in one direction, works similar like a grid. Same but different. But in this situation, it's just literally it's actually two light sources here. There's one on camera right throwing a snooted light across the room. You can kind of see the little sphere of light there, circle of light. And behind them there's another light just kind of separating them from the background. So if you look carefully, you'll see a little room lights around them as well. So we use light to create separation from the background. In some cases you might want the subject to actually blend into the background to create mood. But it just depends on your look and your feel and what you like to do. So kind of moving on. This is using light painting. So in this situation, I was using a speed light actually. So this would have been a speed light that had a softbox on it, and it would have been a composite image. So I'm walking around the car, holding the light in various areas, taking multiple shots, and then using Photoshop to stitch that together and brushing in the light information around the car that I want, just to kind of create those lovely clean lines. Those kind of lovely flowing lines. Apart from the light on the couple in the car, that was a single shot. That would have been a gridded light like this. And I'm told actually that there's now a white grid. I only discovered this yesterday. Peter was telling me that. I'm quite keen to get my hands on this and give it a go. But if you've ever used grids, it gives you quite a hard edge around the kind of the light fall off. Well, there's very minimal fall off. But what the white grid does is gives you a much softer edge, gives you a slight quite a gentle graduate kind of graduation on the edge. So for beauty work, that's fantastic. Similar thing here. If you hadn't guessed that class. So again, light painting using a softbox or kind of a large panel, a little something like this. This would work quite nicely. So that gives you a much wider spread. And the cool thing is you can shape these as well, by the way. They've got ribs on the back which are kind of bendy. So you can shape these to do whatever you want to do, which is quite good fun. So this is a seat wedding, actually just shooting through a gap, and I have speed lights either side of the front of the bride and groom where they sit in the seat wedding, and kind of switching channels on and off to give me light in the direction that I need. And again, I always tend to modify my lights. It's very, very rarely that I have unmodified lights. I like to create that controller and have light go where I need it to go. Ooh. Let's go back. That was odd, wasn't it? Start again. Getting there slowly. In the deserts of Dubai. This is actually just one light. This is one pro photo with a grid. But I use a light that powerful because I'm shooting in the sun. But had this been an hour or two later, I probably could have used a speed light with a grid from the kind of distance I was shooting from. That would have been enough power to kind of create that nice little lift on the bride and groom's faces. The sun was actually somewhere back there. So shaping the light is very important in my work, all the way through. Actually, I guess I like cars. This is quite good fun. This is just using a single light source. Again, this is a gridded speed light. And the reason this was fun is actually the bride and groom were behind me, and I'm shooting into a glass wall. There was actually a glass box around a staircase that was going down, and on the right there was another glass door, kind of on the return side of the box, if you like, and my assistant was just holding the door open, so I was getting a double reflection basically. But I'm shooting this way, and the couple are over here with a, if I remember correctly, again this was a gridded speed light on this one, just to get that kind of lovely fall off on that hot spot on them, but it was quite high up and probably about 6 or 7 feet away from them, which is why I was getting that fall off all the way down her leg. Anyone want to guess what kind of light I was using there? Or what modifier I was using? Grid. Grids are great. Grids are great. You want to minimise the fall off. You know, for me, one of the worst things, one of the things that can actually destroy an image is when the shape of the light gives the game away. So if you've got too much light spilling off in other directions, and then you have to sit in Photoshop and dodge and burn and try and minimise all the stuff that you could have done in a matter of seconds or minutes on the shoot. You know, it's a real shame when that happens. I don't think I've got the picture here, but some of you might know an image that I've done of a bride and groom in the Shard in London. I was shooting through one of the outside windows across another outside window. So the corner of the Shard isn't like a square, it's kind of an inverted, it's got a little cutout in the corner of the building with 2 windows. So I've got the landscape of London across it. I'll see if I can find a picture afterwards. And I forgot my modifiers in the car, and going up into the Shard is like going through airport security. You know, there's no quick way in and out. You've got to just deal with what you've got. And when you go up there, they don't allow a lot of equipment. And I just happened to forget my bag with all the modifiers in the car. So I could have used a speed light, zoomed it in, but I still would have got a lot of spill. And it would have lit the whole area up and given the game away. All I wanted to do was draw attention to the bride and groom. And I needed that flash power because I had to overcome reflections on the glass. But also I had to stop down quite a bit because I was lighting the couple and I was exposing from the landscape. I had to use filters, graduated filters, which are always in my camera bag, I never forget those, apart from today. But I had to graduate down the sky and then expose for the landscape, which meant that the inside was quite dark. And if I'd used a speed light with no modifier, it would just lit the walls up and everything, and all your attention would have just gone to the highlights in the picture. And that's a real shame, that's a real distraction. I think the image falls apart, so I had to think of something. So what I did was I got my assistant to fire a flash backwards through a lens. because if you fight backwards for a lens, it funnels the light in. So I've got this lovely circle of light, and with a really nice fall off actually. It was, if I remember correctly, it was a 7200. So if you zoom it in or out, basically you can change the shape of the light. So, bit of guerrilla tactics there with the light shaping, but light shaping is so important. This is the first bride and groom that we saw. And the difference between this shot and the previous shot is that the first one was done in a 1635, this was done on a 7200. So nothing else has changed. I've changed the pose slightly, the light behind them, as you can see, there's a lovely rim around them and some detail on the doors. And that same snooted light from camera right. So all I've done is just change my focal length and come in really tight. So lighting makes a massive difference. And you can get different shots just by changing your focal length and changing the pose up slightly. But you know, the lighting really adds, it's part of this image. It creates the mood in this image. So I was going for that lovely soft kind of 1930s feel, that romantic feel. Would you agree? Did that work? Yeah.
But how did you get the lighting different on her face from his?
So because the light was literally coming from across the room, and she has much fairer skin than he does. But the trick is, well, what we're doing is we're tricking the camera. So we're not going to talk too much about posing, but it's really to do with the pose. When people kiss, one person has their face turned away and tilted away. So really, it's what I call a miskiss. It kind of, from where I am, it looks like they're kissing, but actually their faces are turned toward the camera. So if they were to kiss, they'd miss each other completely. So his face is turned toward the camera a little bit more, so he's getting a little bit more light. So this is a wedding we did in Santorini, and the couple decided that they had to shift the time of the wedding. It was going to be at midday in August in Santorini, and everyone was just going to die because of the heat. It was crazy. So they decided to push it back to sunset, which is lovely. What it means is we're shooting into the sun the whole time. And of course, without artificial light, you only get one of two things. Either you're going to underexpose them and get a silhouette, or you're going to expose them correctly and blow out the background. But that's not good enough. You have to try and get that balance and create this magic in camera, basically. So again, graduated filter just to bring down what I put in the sky. And I had a couple of speed lights mounted on the inside of the canopy. This time unmodified, but actually just zoomed in to give me a little bit more punch, because we are kind of trying to overpower some serious light power from the sun. Okay. Obviously, with an image like this, they've chosen the location for its beauty and its landscape and the scenery and the setting. So we want to have long depth of field to kind of get some of that detail in, not too much. And we expose somewhere between the couple and the guests. I didn't want to underexpose the guests completely, but the flash power was doing what it needed to do for the couple, and you get a beautiful scene like this. And this is done in camera. You know, we don't need to use Photoshop to create this. So a careful balance of your exposures, using filters on your lenses, and flash power, we can create, or lighting in general really, we can create this. This was fun. Anyone been to Iceland? No? Yeah? It's an incredible place, isn't it? Mad. I mean, if you thought the winds yesterday were bad, this was minus 25 with, I think it was a 40 or 50 mile an hour gust every single day for the period of the shoot. So there was a wind chill of another minus 15 or 20 on top of that. So it was, when it rained sideways. And at this point, me and my assistants were setting up, and it was hailing. So the hail's kind of just firing sideways into our faces. It was so painful. What we had to do is set the lights up, weigh them down with boulders, because it was so windy, and then wait in the van until it stopped hailing. And then we would get the couple out, set up the pose, because the lighting and everything was set, but we had to make some changes really quickly. And we didn't have enough time to go around and change all 16 lights that we used here. Okay, I had 9 speed lights, bunch of pro photos, loads of contingency. I had everything, including the van headlights, going on here. Because it was just getting dark. I was losing everything in the sky, and you know, you've got this black volcanic sand and gravel everywhere. So, quick trick was to turn the graduated filters upside down. Because what was happening was there was more light on the ground at this stage than there was in the sky. So I had to re-expose for the sky. The balance of the lights was about right, but I'd used heavy graduated filters upside down just to bring down the scene. It meant I didn't have to go around and manually change all the lights. And we end up with something like this. But light shaping again, so I've used zoom reflectors, snoops, gridded lights, continuous lights with barn doors, speed lights all over the plane, just to lift that up. You know, if you ever tried lighting a car, you know it's quite difficult because it's a big object. Imagine a plane, it's even bigger, even if it's down near half a plane now. This was a mixture of speed lights and pro photos as well, actually. No, actually this one was all speed lights, there was no pro photos on this one. So the story behind this is the venue that the bride was getting married in was basically a building site. So there was nowhere really to do any portraits with them. And then the chauffeur driver had to disappear off by a certain time, so we had a very limited window to get some portraits done of the bride and groom. So I took them to a car park that was nearby. And there was a lovely view from the car park. I thought I'd use that. You know, the weather wasn't great, so we've got some drama from the sky. And while I was unloading the car, I just paused, turned around just to kind of have a look at the scene, and I caught the bride just checking herself out in the reflection of the window. And chuckled to myself because I thought that's typical. Her name's Namisha, she's a real poser, and quite vain and proud of it. You know, that's her personality, that's how people know her. So I thought, hold on, that's the shot. You know, people will see this and think, that's Namisha, that's just her. So I changed it up a little bit and kind of got it to pose in the wing mirror, and that was the shot. But I had to light the car first because that's the hardest bit, it's the largest object. A couple of speed lights, one at the front. In fact, there were two at the front. One for the front of the car, just to kind of light across there, just to give me that wash. And there was another one there which had a grid, just to control the light on the bride. Then there was another one just next to the camera, to the right, just to give me a gentle fill across the whole scene. So 3 speed lights, basically, to create this. And obviously exposing for the drama in the sky, because that's kind of the bit I can't control. So this is my thinking, guys, is I'll expose for the bit I can't control, and the bits I can control are the areas I can light, the areas I can use filters on to kind of create the balance that I need to, yeah? At the end of a day, at the end of a very long day, they wanted more portraits. It's incredible how brides and grooms have so much energy after a 16-hour day. It's nuts. But end of the day, everyone had gone home, and we've got this lovely staircase, beautiful bride. So we thought, why not? We may as well get this. The colour palette worked beautifully, and it was just 2 lights here. One gridded light on the bride, and another one that was just, if I remember correctly on that one, it was just a fill. So it was a zoomed-in speed light for this one. It takes a little bit of fiddling on the day because you want to get the balance right. I don't like spending too much time in Photoshop. I think life's too short for that. It's much easier just to fiddle with the settings on your speed lights there and then, just to get the balance that you want, don't you think? So, one of the key things to creating beautiful images like that is to get your colour right. You know, you can shape the light, but without colour correction, without colour management, the light's going to look wrong, the image is going to look wrong, the feel's going to be all wrong. That last image with the bride in the red on the red staircase could have turned out very differently. It could have been, her dress could look brown, or the carpet could look brown, if I'd got the colour management all wrong. So there's 2 things that really need to be done. One is to have a good screen, if you don't have one, a good colour management screen. One that's capable of being calibrated and showing you colours the way they're supposed to be seen. And is to have something to calibrate it. So have a colorimeter like the I1 display, that's what I use. And I calibrate my screens, and I have an array of screens. Once every 100 hours. So my screens are set to remind me every 100 hours. And they're on most of the time, my screens. You know, we work day and night basically, so it's almost every sort of 4 days, 5 days calibrating our screens, once a week essentially, calibrating our screens. And the shift is incredible. It's amazing how these monitors go out of calibration quickly. And it's because when you're using them that much, you know, there's a temperature shift throughout the day, and there's a temperature shift throughout the week, and there's a phosphor shift in the LCD or the LEDs or whatever it is you're using, so the colours start to shift. We've got the experts back there who will tell you more about that. As geeky as I am, these guys are geekier, so they'll be able to tell you everything that you need to know, okay? But this is one of the things that most people tend not to think about, is the camera. And this is what my second talk's going to be about. It's about how cameras are colorblind. But one thing I'll say right now is, all cameras are different. I'm a Canon shooter, I use all 1DX Mark IIs. So you'd think they'd all be identical, especially for a $6 camera, right? But it's not the case. Components change throughout the life of the cameras. Some cameras are older, some cameras are newer, some have been treated better than others, some have had more usage than others. The optics are different. You know, so I could use two 1DX Mark IIs, two 7200s. The colour of the light going through the glass is going to have a slight variance in it. The sensors are going to have a slight variance in it. So if you did the same shot with two identical cameras with two identical lenses in the same conditions, they're going to look different. And the shift is incredible, actually. So I'm not going to go through the process in detail right now, but essentially we take a picture of that target. We drop it into the x-rite software and it creates a profile for that camera. It's analysing how that camera interprets the colours and corrects them, because each of these squares has a specific value, basically. Yeah? So the software knows what value that red should be and what value that yellowy orange thing is supposed to be and what value that orange is supposed to be, and it corrects it accordingly. So when you drop your lovely image into Lightroom, I use Lightroom, you can specify that an image from this particular camera uses that particular profile. So you get this lovely consistency. And you do that to all your cameras. So I shoot with two cameras, but then I have a team. So we have an array of, I think it's 6 of these things now. So all 6 need to be profiled. So throughout the wedding day, I'm getting a consistent look and feel, particularly from the colours. Because colour, you know, the colour of the images affects the psychology of the viewer. I shoot Indian weddings full of colour, all day long, full of colour. And there have been instances where I might have maybe over-processed a couple of images and the bride's like, oh, well, I'm sure my outfit didn't look like that, you know. And maybe I forgot to calibrate the screen, or I just pushed the processing too far. And it's incredible how people will pick up on these things. You know, it was a slightly different hue of green than it should have been. So it's so important that you get the colour right, particularly now. I mean, we're in the business of colour, guys. You know, we've got portrait photographers, we've got commercial photographers, we've got wedding photographers, we've got landscape photographers. So it's one of the key things here. Is that cool? Should we look at some light setups now? Yeah? Everyone's going quiet? Everyone thinking or just falling asleep or feeling tired? Okay, it's Jane. I'm on. Hello, I'm on. Yeah, can you see that? Okay, so I want to introduce you to Jane. And I also want to introduce you to some of these rogue flash blenders. Gavin very kindly is going to be my lighting assistant today, but I'll return the phone later on. I want to show you the effect of these things and how I generally tend to shape light. So My start point is Rembrandt lighting. I tend to go for the Rembrandt because it works. It looks beautiful. It's lasted the ages, and if you look at my portraits, you look at my work on my website, some of the stuff that we saw earlier on, it has that lovely fall off. I tend to generally shoot short side, but it just depends on who I'm shooting as well. So sometimes with grooms I'll go broadside, sometimes I'll light both sides, sometimes I'll split the lighting. We can create lots of different things. So just give me a second while I get the plate shot done. So Jane, if you just come forward a little bit, just stand in the middle there. And with any luck, guys, this wireless tethering is going to work for me. With any luck. Cool. Can we get the grid just in front of it there? Just above her. There you go. Just a little further away, a little further around. That's cool. So I'm going to set these up manually, guys, rather than going TTL. Okay. Anyone ever used Cam Ranger? Wireless tethering? It's great when it works. Cam Ranger connected apparently. Let's have a look. Okay. It's looking promising. Just a quick test shot though. Right, I think I know what to do. Don't want that. Fingers crossed. Yeah, okay. It's a little peaky because of the screen. But what we're going to do is just try and isolate the face. So bring it nice and close. So the closer the light, guys, do we get softer or harder light? Who said harder? It's softer. Okay. So the further away the light is, when we say it's hard light, it means the shadows are harder. So the edges of the shadows become more defined the further away the light source is. The closer it is, it becomes a bit more confused and therefore a little bit softer. But also, because we want the grid just to isolate the face, we want to bring it closer because the further away it is, the cone of light's going to be larger and we'll have more fall off. So we'll bring it closer. Just turn toward the right. Okay, just keep your eyes on me. And a tiny step back. And we'll underexpose the flash a little bit as well. So we get the lovely little catch lights in the eyes, and we get that perfect Rembrandt lighting. So we get the highlight on the short side of the image, and so this side is in beautiful shadow. We get a little triangle of light around the cheek, around the other side of the nose. Yeah. So just a really simple setup: one speed light, one grid, and a beautiful pose. Is that cool? So the key thing is we always want to get some catch lights in the eyes, otherwise the eyes look dead. You know, the first thing we look at in a photograph is of a person are the eyes. And a number of times I see images, particularly in like the print competitions, that sort of thing, where the eyes are soft. And it's a beautiful picture, but the eyes are soft, and you just think, oh, I wish they'd focused on the right thing. Sometimes you see the eyes in focus, but you don't see the catch lights. And you think, oh, I wish there was a catch light, because it makes a big difference. I judge print competitions a lot, and I enter them myself. So particularly the societies, WPPI, that sort of thing. And it's simple things that really just let an image down, because that's the first thing you engage with. Yeah? Okay, so let's change this up a little bit more. Should just bring that back a touch. I'll just raise it up a little bit too. Okay, we're going to get a similar thing. The shape of the light will be different now, particularly you'll start to see a little bit of fall off behind perhaps. Okay, so on 1, 3, 2, 1. Actually, the light's fallen off onto a shoulder there. I should probably do it. So now you can see a bit more of the background. So you create a little bit more separation. Yeah? But it looks like the right side, I'll get the mouse on the picture. That side there, you're starting to see some detail. But it's at that point where it's not quite enough. You just want to see a little bit more. So we can introduce a background light. So can we just flip that one on? Is that one? No, it's not one. Okay. So the way I'm doing this, guys, is I have my speed light trigger set to groups. And turn that one really low down. So this one is A, that one's B, which you haven't introduced that one yet, and the one behind is C. Keep it simple. I think these can do 6 channels or something like that, which means that you can shape and modify light like crazy. The other day I was doing a family portrait shoot in the family's house, massive family, and I didn't use speedlights for that. I had 5 pro photos going. 5 pro photos going, and it wasn't enough. You can never have enough light. You think, what the hell are you going to do with all that light? You're just going to nuke the scene. But the things that have all been modified, they've all been shaped. So I've got a gridded strip box. I had another, I think it was an 8-inch octa box, which gives me this lovely kind of punch of light in an area that I need to. I had a couple of big umbrellas. I had one big x-rite. If you've ever seen the pro photo stuff, you know, like a 5-foot umbrella, which just, you know, I have it on a big boom arm as high as it goes, just kind of raining light down on the scene, just kind of give me my general feel. So you can never have enough lighting. But if you're new to this, keep it simple. Start with one light. Some of the best portraits are done with a single light. You know, if you need a bit of separation, use 2. So let's see how it looks with 2. Did he get the balance of the back and the light in the back right or not? Let's have a look. So, focusing on the front eye, guys. Probably a bit too much on the back there. Not too bad, but you get the idea. Start to create a little bit of separation. So here's a difference between the two. If I flip backwards and forwards. You just start to see a little bit more detail, a bit more separation between the two. And any of you retouchists out there will start to have little fits about things like this, stray hairs and stuff like that. It's the bane of my life. Especially in the wedding album. They're like, can you remove all the stray hairs? Everywhere. On all the pictures. So that's good fun, isn't it? Okay, can we just kill the one at the back? And let's get that one in. In fact, I'll have that next to this. Right, you're probably wondering, why the hell is he putting it next to it? Well, on this image, we had that lovely punch of light on the face, but you couldn't see any detail here. There's a lot of shadow. So can we just bring them both much closer as well? So I'm using the large one as a kind of a fill, a low-level fill. I'm going to have its power quite low down. Okay, so let's just set the first one up. In fact, let's switch the first one off. I'm going to come in nice and close to this. That's fine. Let's go portrait for this. one would have done. Okay, lovely soft fill, slightly underexposed, but that's deliberate. But it's probably too much. I actually want to bring it down a little bit more because the gridded light's going to give me the accent. That's going to be the key. This is just the fill. Okay, so we'll bring that down even more. Fact. So I want to have it on 1/28, the lowest it's supposed to go. Let's see how that looks. It's brighter. How weird is that? Okay. Let's change a few camera settings here. That's more like it. Okay, can we get that grid back on, please? Oh, was it on? Oh. I switched it off here. Okay. And can we bring that down as well so it's at the same height? And let's bring this one slightly further back so that they're closer together. That's cool. Bring that one further away. That's it, just bring this one next to that. That's cool. Also, just contour a little bit. Okay. So, I'm hoping that the equipment's not going to make a monkey out of me here. Look, it fell on the shoulder there actually, mate. Just a little bit. Yeah, just angle it up a little bit. And just raise it a touch. That'll do. Maybe just change the angle a touch lower. Just a touch lower here. Just a touch. Okay, also, just take a step this way. Cool. Okay. So, 1, 1, 3, 2. That's more like it. It's missed her eye a little bit, but that's fine. We can tweak that. You get a feel for what's going on here. So, let's compare that to the first one we did, which was that. So what this is doing is filling in those shadows a little bit more. So let's shape this so that we're actually hitting it where we need to. Just turn toward these lights a little bit, take a tiny step back. Okay. So what we want to do is get this one just to hit the eyes on this side a little bit more. And on this one, just to fill in the shadows. So it can sit right behind. It doesn't matter if there's a light stand in front of it, it's still going to do its job. That light's going to wrap around that light stand, and then we'll get the light on in the background. So this is how you can build up different shots. You know, if you're doing shots of brides in the morning, build up the light, start with nothing, layer it upwards, keep it simple. Start with a dark room. Bring in one light, bring in two lights, bring the third light, and then change the pose around. But remember that lighting and posing works together. You can't just give her another pose and get her to turn the other way. You're going to be lighting the wrong side. So you have to think about how the two work together the whole time. So let's just try this now, guys. Look at this one. 1, 3, 2, 1. A little bit better. Let's get the backlight on now. So. Same thing again. 1, 3, 2, 1. That was very powerful and bad. That's not too bad. What we might do is raise that one up. And Gavin, could we have it this way a little bit? Just move the stand over this way a little bit. That's it. Raise it up a touch more. Awesome. Cool. 1 more down. 3, 2, 1. Yeah? Is that cool? And then obviously we can change these things up. We can shape the light, we can take stuff away, we can add stuff in. We've got different sizes to create different looks and different feels. So, you know, I would start with a shot like this. Beautiful classic pose. No one's going to dislike this in their album. Right? Anyone disagree with that? Did someone just nod? Okay, but I mean the idea is that you start with something and you build it up and you make these tweaks. In an ideal world, I'll have a little bit more light in that other eye. And let's give it a go, because we want to get this right. Okay, let's do it as you want. Tiny step this way, actually. A tiny step backwards. Okay, let's go. So on 1, 3, 2, 1. There's a big thing going around at the moment of creating portraits by light painting people, particularly big group shots or wedding portraits, where you take a plate shot of the scene, then you get the bride and groom in there, you'd use a light, you'd take that shot, retouch out the assistant holding the light stand, and remove all the shadows. And it's cool right now, but it's not going to last. Images like that in print competitions particularly, judges, seasoned judges will look for shadows, because an image is just as much about shadows as it is about light. And if the shadows don't add up, it's going to score badly. Do anyone enter print competitions or any kind of competitions here? A few of you. If there's a portrait, a full-length portrait of a bride and groom, and they're casting no shadow, the first thing you're going to think is this has been photoshopped, as in they've been stuck onto the picture. And that's fine. There are categories for that, and there's genres for that, but it's not timeless. It won't make sense, and it won't make sense forever. The reason the masters are the masters, as in the painters, is because they understood light and shadow. It's what we see in everyday life. It makes sense to us. So don't try and eliminate shadows. Shadows create drama. Right? Shadows create the realism in an image. But we can try and minimize some of the shadows, so I'm going to just bring this one around to this side and just bring those shadows down a touch. So we'll still have that drama at the front. It's the same pose. We'll just move one light and we'll see the difference it makes. It will flatten the image a little bit, but it's not too bad. You just get a little bit more detail. What's the collarbone? Sorry about that. A little bit more detail. So with women, you want to accentuate details. You want to accentuate these lovely cheekbones and the shadows across there. We want to accentuate the collarbone. We want the little highlight, the ping in the eyes. We want the separation between the subject and the background. We've got a dark-edged background, which is why we've got that backlight. If it was a completely white wall, I might not even have that. There might be just enough separation to create that. Is that cool? Does anyone have any questions?
The highlights, will they be easily edited in?
Yeah, it's a little bit peaky on the projector, and I'm looking at the histogram here. It's actually okay, but yeah, I mean something like that. I tend to, and I might look at Lightroom a little bit in my second session, because we're going to be talking about the color management side of stuff, and I'll look at I'll show you some processing as well. But I tend to bring my highlights down a little bit. I tend to open up the dynamic range of the image a little bit more, so I open up the shadows a little bit, bring the highlights down a little bit, and then just do some local tweaks and stuff like that. Any other questions? Yeah? Any other questions?
Have you find a problem not having the modelling lights you have in your portfolio, or have you got so experienced at doing this, you can visualise what's going to visualise?
I'd like to think so. If you hit that button there, on these speed lights, it's the pilot button. If you hit that, you can see where the light's going to go. So that's your modelling light.
Can you do that from the camera?
You can, yeah. So on the trigger, there's the same thing. So if I press that there, I can see exactly what I'm going to get from everything. Probably should have been doing that from the start. But as you said, I'm so experienced. I can just do it straight up. Any other questions?
Picture of Nanisha.
Yeah.
Where the shadow was gone.
Well, the shadows are gone behind her, away from her. So we had, so this is the one with the bride doing lipstick in the wing mirror. I had two lights in front of her. So one on the car, not casting any light on her at all, and one on her. But then I had one next to the camera, which was filling in the shadows at the back. But remember, I'm doing this in broad daylight too. So I've actually got lovely, it was an overcast day. So I've got a giant softbox above me. So I didn't need to create this kind of contrast. Here, I'm really stopping down here. I said really stopping down. I'm at 250th, which is a 6-speed f5 and 400 ISO, so I've brought the ISO right down. But in that shot in the Misha, I would have taken a plate shot which would have been slightly underexposed in the ambient environment. And what I'm doing is I'm filling in the shadows with the flash, so it's not the other way around. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Yeah, anyone else? No, shy bunch? Or is it just first thing in the morning? Coffee needs to kick in. Okay. Well, I've got 10 more minutes, so I can play around with a couple of different light setups, I think. Let's see, what should we do? I'll tell you what. Can you turn and face the wall there? And then turn and look over your shoulder. Okay. So, if that's my shot and I wanted to look over the shoulder, I'd probably just start with the one light first. Okay? So we just power these down. Look at where that light's going to go. Just leave that there, let's switch it off. Awesome. Yeah. Just hands back at me. So what I'm going for here is obviously the highlight of the face. I'm going to cast a shadow across her back. Okay, so she's very slim and she's got roughly modelling around her bones at the back, and I want to pick some of that up with highlights and shadows. Then we'll see how severe that is and maybe fill some of it in. Okay. 1, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3. Cool. Eyes are a little dead, aren't they? This is what I'm talking about. I mean, it's dramatic. But the eyes are a touch dead. So we're going to have to bring this round a little bit. Maybe lower it a touch. Okay, so same thing again. Eyes on me. So again on 1, 3, 2, 1, 3. Better. So we need a little bit more fill now, right? So I've got the drama where I need it. So we're going to bring this thing in. Just over here, actually. So we're going to do the same thing again. We've got the key light. We're going to add a little bit of fill just to get those shadows filled in. Okay. Let's have a look at the shape of the light. So one of the tricks is to squint. When you're checking your lights, if you're using continuous light or a flash, if you've got the modelling lights on, and if you squint, you start to see the highlights and the shadows more carefully. It's more like what you're going to see on the screen actually. So I need a bit more power. For B. Okay. Let's bring the grid down a little bit. Okay, looking this way now. 1, 3, 2, 1. What happened there? Isn't that odd?
The modelling light stayed on a while. The modelling light
It did, didn't it?
was like it wasn't the flash, it was the modelling light only. It was the modelling light only.
It's doing something. Let's try that again. Bloody technology, eh? 1, 3, 2, 1, 3. Oh, now it's blown out. Okay, so now it's starting to misbehave. I haven't changed anything. The first one's completely dark. That's really odd, isn't it? You don't want that. Okay. Let's try this again. What I can do is do a little flash exposure lock if it wants to work. It doesn't want to work. I think he's having a bit of a hissy fit. Let's have a look. That's okay. That's all right. Okay. That's more like it. I didn't change anything. Isn't that weird? Anyway, let's do that again and frame in her shoulders a little bit more, I think. Lower back. So now we're going to see more detail across the back there, across the shoulder blades. We can accentuate a little bit more with the pose. If you just turn away from it a little bit more and just bring your face back to here. Okay? Don't need to look at me, but just at that point there. Okay? Might add a little bit more power into that fill. Just chin to your shoulder a little bit more. Chin down and over to your shoulder and touch. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. It's all that shadow modelling, lovely, beautiful shadow modelling. It's all about capturing the female form. Yeah, you've got the beautiful catch lights in the eyes. I think I prefer this pose to the other one. You know why? Can anyone tell me why? Say that again? Yes, exactly. Exactly. Too much whites in the eyes. It's a bit freaky. If you see too much whites in the eyes, it just looks a bit alien. We'll bring that down a little bit. It's much softer, because she was trying too hard to look over toward me. She could have looked off camera a little bit. But I actually think that this is a far more elegant shot. Would you agree? Yeah? Any more questions? 5 more minutes. Go on.
Maybe the projector, but how would you control the specularity of my face?
Yeah, good question. How would you control the specularity on the face? It's because of this. The inside of these speedlights are silver. And if we had the white ones to hand, I know these guys had a lot to get together, we just don't have any to hand, but I think the white grid would have softened that. So what's happening is that the silver reflector on the inside of the speedlights causing that specularity, but the white grid would have softened that, would have whitened the whole thing. I'm guessing, but I'm pretty certain that's why they've done that, just to soften the hard edge and to create that softness. In another situation, I possibly would have, if I wasn't using speedlights and I was using bigger strobes, for a shot like this, I probably would have used a gridded zoom reflector with a snoot. So zoom reflector is going to give me the punch, the grid's going to give me the control, bring down the light because it's so close, and the snoot is also going to just funnel it into that zone. But the zoom reflectors I use tend to have, I've got a silver one, I've got one with a white interior as well. So if you've got anything with a white lining, or if you put a white lining on the front, if I put a white lining on the front of this, I just won't get that control. It's going to start spreading that light, apart from having the white grid. So I think in this situation, the white grid would have been awesome. Yeah? Any other questions? I think you had a question.
Yeah, would you use room lighting? Just to bring out some
Should we do that?
right hand side?
Should we do that? Let's do that. Can we grab that other grid? Your grid. We'll steal your grid. Thanks, mate. Yeah, I'll have it back here, just above it. Actually, from here, just across there. So, previously we had a light on the background, and that was creating separation. But what we're actually going to do is give her a hair light, or a rim light, and it's literally going to light the rim of her hair. Fingers crossed we don't get any blood on us. Okay. Sorry, this is the one with the broken handle.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, this is wedding photographer's equipment. Stuff never lasts. That's cool. Thank you. this above her. And in front of her. Okay. That would be useful. Well spotted, that lady. Someone's paying attention. That's good. Sounds like your coffee's kicked in. Okay. Chin to your shoulder a little bit more. Eyes up, and that's it, just there. Chin down a touch. Probably a little strong. You get the idea. Let's turn that down and just see what we can get. You see, even with speed lights, they do have a lower limit that can be a little too high. And if that's the case, then I have to stop the whole thing down and bump up the power of these, which we could do. But then I know I'm going to get tapped on my shoulder in a second, so let's see what we have. Just move it away a little bit. It's a little lower, but did that answer your question? Whose question? This was your question, wasn't it? Did that answer your question? In an ideal world, I'd want to just isolate that so it's more of a rim. And I'm really OCD about these things, so let's just do a couple more until we get it right. It's a fun of light shaping, you could experiment.
So would you always use would you always use the grid as opposed to like a softbox behind it, just to give more of a...
I could do, but that's going to give me a lot of spill.
Yeah.
It's going to spill onto the background, and all I want is the hair, basically. But let's give it a go. A bit better.
Are you zoomed in on that hairline as well? Is it not needed because of the grid?
What's that, sir?
Are you zoomed in on these?
It's not zoomed in. If I zoom in, it's going to give me more power. And I'm trying to bring it down. Yeah.
Yeah, just said, do you not need it because you've got the grid on?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in an ideal world, like I said, what I'd do is, that's at the minimum power on that speed light. So I'd stop down a little bit more on the overall shot and bump up the power on these two just to rebalance it. Yeah? And that would give me a thinner kind of streak of highlights on the hair. Is that cool? I think we've run out of time. Any more questions?
Sorry, Chris, there's coffee outside and I'm sure you're desperate for another coffee.
Let's do one more question.
Just wanted to go back to your very first picture on the back. How far away were your lights? Were they in the picture and you edited them out, or were they? Because that seems like a really...
I hate doing that. I like to get the shot done once. I grew up shooting film, so for me, I want to get it done as much as possible in that shot. So let's say the space was as big as this, and I think it was a little bit more. So there's a gallery all the way around that space, and I'm against the balustrade here, and my light was where that light stand is. And it was basically one of those big Manfrotto boom arms, so the light was touching the ceiling. So it's a tall ceiling, the light's literally on the ceiling, and it's on a zoom reflector, zoomed in, it's got a snoot on it, and obviously I've just controlled the power to give me the balance that I need. So yeah, it was a lot of light power. It wasn't a speed light.
I was going to say that.
It wasn't a speed light. I mean, you'd get one shot at the speed light and it would probably overheat. You know? I mean, you could do it. You could do it with a couple of speed lights. 2 or 3 speed lights, you could probably do that. But you'd have to modify each one of those. And you could get that punch. Yeah? No worries. I think we're out of time.
Yeah, so Gavin, Sanjay will be around for asking questions. If you want to come and try and shoot with the lighting scenario that's here or do something, please feel free. Coffee, and if we could reconvene at 11:30 in here for everyone, that should give you enough time to be further more to that.
Thanks for staying with me, guys.
Thank you.